So one of the videos I've most been asked to do is how to make these end cliff hex pieces. So this is where you can have a line of cliff as long as you want, but to tie it into the rest of the battlefield, to have like a smooth slope going around, really makes these pieces very useful, even though you might only need one or two of them in your entire setup. So you can see how this piece has a cliff on one side, flat here along the base, and then it continues to slope up, so it's got 1, 2, 3, 4 slopes up to allow it to kind of gain enough elevation to be able to have this sort of cliff or low bluff. So yeah, this is the piece which we're going to be showing how to make today. So I'm going to move these out of the way. Now, as you can see, I've got the same piece on the opposite side, so it'll be the same principle to make both of these pieces. But we'll make a left-hand one to start with. So what you'll need for this, start off with, you need a block of polystyrene. So I've got four hexes I've cut separately and glued together. Obviously it depends on what thickness of polystyrene you're working with. You might be able to get away with fewer. I've set this up, so this is to cut a straight cliff hex piece. Put that in place. Get my hot wire cutter. And I'm going to cut this fully as if it were an ordinary cliff hex, and try and cut this as neatly as possible. So you want to do this in one go, so it's not like other hexes, like a slope hex where you're taking off a bit at a time, a bit more. Here you want to get it in one go because you're going to need the piece that's left over. So do this as neatly as you can. It's not the end of the world if you make a mistake, but it'll be a lot easier if you don't. Make doubly sure it's pushed in fully first, which it is. Gripping it quite tightly to hold the sides together. Okay, there it goes. Pushing it firmly against the jig. Okay, there we go. So that's not bad. There's a few lines there that wouldn't be ideal, but it shouldn't really matter too much. Okay, I'll pop this out. Okay, let me pause whilst I reconfigure my jig. Okay, so I've reconfigured my jig so it'll look like the final piece. So we've got the cliff jig on this side and slopes coming down on all the other sides. So we'll take the piece we made earlier, put this back into the jig, put this back on top where it's going to be a go, make sure it's firmly seated, and now what I'm going to do is cut this much like you would cut any other slope piece. So this time I am going to take off a piece at a time, that doesn't matter at all. Okay, continue working around, making sure you hold the two pieces together. Okay, it'll be slightly helped because as this melts, as the hot wire cutter is melting through it, it will kind of stick the two pieces together a little bit. That's why I'm not pulling it apart to show you. Right. Okay, so my aim is to try and get each of these as smooth as possible, so obviously I want to get rid of these sharp lines. And remember, you can always sand this afterwards, so it doesn't need to be perfect. Just try and get the best that you can. Right, so I'm going to pop this off now, so you can see how we're getting on. So we need to round this down a bit more. Obviously don't worry about this line here because that's going to get glued. That's going to get glued in. So you can actually take this off whilst I do this bit to try and smooth this a little bit better. Right. So the next thing to bear in mind is this cliff bit which we want to preserve is already as far as we can go, as far as the hot wire cutter will go in this direction because of this here. So as long as I don't turn the angle of the hot wire cutter past here, I won't accidentally cut into this. So I can afford to run down like this and it'll be fine. So that's what I'm going to do here. Be careful with my thumb, of course. So you can see the shape starting to emerge now. Okay, so that's our basic shape. Now, the next bit is really up to you as to how much of a piece of cliff you want on here. You clearly want some because it's got to transition into the cliff that's next to it. So what I would suggest is that rather than just trying to get this ever more flat, you've already got a flat piece here. So the best thing you can do is just cut off some of this section here, and you can freehand this. So let's say we want to have a shape going down a slight curve, like there. Let's put it back in and see how it looks. Okay, so that's working quite nicely. I think perhaps I want to take a bit more off this, so it's not quite such a straight line. So although I'm freehanding the cutting here, none of the bits I'm freehanding are connecting up to other hexes. So it doesn't really matter if my shape is a bit odd, but not quite how I intended. It doesn't really matter because it's not going to affect how the hexes line up with each other. So that's looking pretty good. I might take a little bit more off here, so I want to make sure that where the cliff face joins from this to the next one, the cliff is the same height. So here is a bit too much of a step, so we'll take the bottom of that. Okay, I'm happy with that. So we'll just smooth off some of these other bits where it's a bit too sharp angle. That's very nearly finished barring sanding. Just like a slip there. Okay, so just forgive the mess here. I think I'm pretty happy with that. Now I'll take some sandpaper to this to smooth this off. Obviously once this is done, you're going to glue this piece back on there. What you might want to do before gluing this on is you could make the whatever your cliff texture is going to be. So I've used cast plaster rocks. So when I made this piece, this is a piece of plaster poured into this is liquid plaster, obviously, poured into a mould. When it dries, you can stain it and paint it and put turf on it. So if you're going to use something like that, or you might use some real rocks, or some people actually like to carve into the polystyrene. But if you're going to do something like this, where it's a cast piece, I would suggest that you delay gluing this back on until you've got your pieces glued on, because you may find that the piece you want to glue on is better kind of dug right into the earth, dug into this bit, so you can cut it a bit more manually until they fit together, and then you can use a bit of filler to smooth up any gaps, and putting in some foliage or turf will cover all sorts of mistakes or gaps that are wider than you would like. But that's it. That's how you cut one of these end pieces. So a little bit of sanding to smooth those lines off.